If you want a hot-looking small car, don't get an SUV, get a small car, a sedan like the Kia K4. This replaces the old Forte. It's all new, inside and out, the way it drives, the way it looks, and particularly all the features it has in true Kia fashion that deliver more than the expected price. Let's go take a look. The K4 replaces the Forte, which had been around since the early 2010s. That car went through 3 generations, and now that it's called K4 and comes in a wrapper this good looking, well, I could say everyone can be proud to drive a small Kia. Good design comes standard on every K4. The headlights, LEDs, plus these bracket-shaped amber-colored LEDs on the outside that are absolutely very, very dramatic, especially when you're making a turn. You can't miss it. They're all standard on every single K4 trim. What you see here is the GT line, so you're getting an extra aggressive lower air intake with some vertical fins. Not all of them are real, but the effect is definitely there. On the rest of the car, you'll see this clamshell hood that kind of curves down. The seam, the cut line where you're opening the hood, is right on the line of the headlights and the grille. There's no line tracing above them like you'll see on older Honda Civics and older Kias. That's more expensive. And the car is also purposely wide. It's the widest in the compact segment, and you see how these lights are almost pretty much on the edge of the fenders. That makes this car look more imposing, sportier, and lower. Now that the Kia Stinger is no longer in production, the K4 is taking some of those fastback proportions and putting them on a slightly smaller scale. You can see how the rear doors come down, and even just how that black trim on the trunk, it actually makes the rear glass appear to be longer so that the deck lid appears shorter. It's not, it's all an illusion. Just like the rear door handle, you can't see it. It makes it think like this is a coupe. It is not, it's up in that black C-pillar trim. I particularly don't like that because as cool as it looks, you just want to open the door and open it normally for your passengers, or if you happen to be the one sitting in the back. But let's just look at this design. On the GT line, you're getting black fenders. You're also getting these 18-inch two-tone wheels. And on this car, I love this color. This color keeps coming up all the time now in new cars. This slate gray with this turquoise, some blue tint in it. There's a lot of interesting design details on here. And Kia is taking almost a Volvo shape, especially on these rear fenders. I like what they're doing. They're really getting a language here that they never had before. And even though there's a lot of interesting and kind of odd angles, it works on this car. Just like the front, LEDs are standard on every K4, and here, well, they look very, very dramatic. When I first saw a K4 for the first time, I thought I was looking at some crazy Polestar or some Volvo S90 that had been modified. This truly is Kia's design now, and how it's positioned super wide on the outer edges of those fenders, that's what gives the K4 a wider look in all proportions. So it looks more expensive. Wide, low cars typically mean sports cars. This one is not, but that's the look you're getting, especially with the aggressive black polished bumper. And just the whole finish and the whole treatment of the car does scream a whole lot more expensive. I just wish that it was going to be more powerful, but hey, looks can be deceiving, and that can be a very good thing at this price. What do you know? No more twist key ignition. No more Kia thefts, hopefully. On the 2025 K4, every single trim has push-button start. The seats have a very futuristic look to the headrest and the seat backs. Kia also applies color in a very unique way. Not only are there white accents on the door panels, they're on the edges of the seats, all the headrests, the center console, and the steering wheel hub and the upper rim of the wheel. But thankfully, they haven't changed some things, like a PRNDL shifter, very traditional, and there's cup holders or open space in this center tray. On the GT line, these seats are heated and the driver is 10-way power and, optionally, cooled for both front seats and with 2-way memory. That's not something you typically get. And if you want a sunroof, that is optional on the GT line. It's pretty big, and it's standard in the GT line Turbo. The K4 has the most headroom and legroom in the back seat in the compact sedan class, but to me, it doesn't feel dramatically larger. Still very roomy, but these futuristic looking seatbacks are hard plastic, so if the driver or the passenger are coming back, watch your knees. And also, no rear air vents on any single trim except the most expensive one, the GT line Turbo, so these are just a lot of blanks. The trunk space is also impressive for a small car. It matches the oversized dimensions on the outside, over 14.5 cubic feet, and the seats fold down on every trim except the base LX. However, those aggressive looks don't exactly match what's underneath that sloped hood. A 2-liter inline-4 doesn't even make 150 horsepower, just barely over 130 pound-feet of torque. Those are small numbers, but this is a small car, doesn't weigh that much. Front wheel drive on every single trim. Everything has a continuously variable transmission unless you get the GT line turbo, which comes with a turbo inline 4, making close to 200 horsepower with an 8-speed automatic transmission. But fuel economy is really the K4's strong point. 40 mpg on the base LX, 39 highway on this GT line in most of the trims, and even if you get the GT line turbo, the numbers don't go down all that much. Being in the 30s, it's a pretty good place to be. The K4, it's not too fast, right? Not a 200 horsepower Civic, hybrid or SI. But the CVT on this car actually responds a lot better than I was expecting it to. Kind of like in Subarus, like the Crosstrek. You actually get decent actual gear ratios that help slow you down. They don't actually help you go faster. But on this GT line trim, we've got an acoustic laminated windshield and also insulated tires. These 18-inch tires also have insulation essentially between the sidewall and in the inner ring of the tire. It's really just foam underneath the rubber tread. But all that really does, it just adds up to a slightly more quiet ride than you'll find on lesser K4s. And in this class, it's actually pretty good. I don't expect a super quiet ride, and this one's delivering it. The K4 looks very sporty, and this engine definitely doesn't deliver that in any way. There is a sport driving mode. It's kind of neat, I had to find it. On the 6 o'clock position here in the steering wheel. It doesn't really do anything aside from turn the gauges red, so I just put that back to normal. But this K4 versus the Forte, because it's longer and wider, it does feel a bit more stable. It's very windy today, and the crosswinds have been affecting this car and every truck on the road. That's to be expected. But otherwise, the K4 does drive almost like the bigger Optima, which is now the K5. The top K4 trims have highway driving assistant. You can activate that with the adaptive cruise control, press the button on the steering wheel, and now you've got really good lane centering and automatic lane changes. Not offensive, but nothing really happens in the K4, aside from really good fuel economy. I've been averaging over 32 mpg in the winter. Now this steering wheel is pretty funky to hold in shape and color and texture. I think that's pretty cool. The steering feel is also pretty decent, but I think Honda and Toyota are the ones really mastering all that in terms of off-center feel, on-center feel, how it's transmitting the forces to the road, to your palms. You know, I really don't think Kia has that totally down. Hyundai has done a better job in the Elantra, especially the N-Line. Watch that review. In the K4, it's more like a cable that's been slightly unwound. You know it's decently tight, but it's not quite as secure and precise as other cars, especially Honda and Toyota. But on this K4, on the GT line, there's a multi-link rear suspension instead of the torsion beam, so that does increase lateral stiffness. So when you really toss it into a corner, you should feel the car more balanced. However, these tires are pretty skinny. The car is really not that quick, so you're not gonna have a ton of fun unless you get the GT line turbo, which also shares the Elantra N-Line's turbo. It's a 1.6 liter. We've yet to drive that one. I think that would definitely bring more verve into this K4. Because all in all, it drives less sporty than it looks, but I suspect that most people aren't really gonna care about that. They're gonna like the fact of how comfortable it is and really what a pleasant day-to-day car it is. I could see more performance coming down the line because Kia is increasing that. They're trying to deliver more performance. You're not gonna get that in most versions of the K4. And I'm not sure, to be honest, that you're gonna wanna spend close to $30,000 on that turbo model. Compact cars like this have really come a long way. I remember driving the first Forte models when they came out for 2010. They were all just terrible cars. Just to drive, the style inside, the whole frames, they would creak, literally creak, and it was just like, I knew it was bad then. So it's amazing to see Kia come out with this several generations later, not just changing the name, because anybody can change a name, but change the entire character of the car. Almost like you're driving a car that's one class above where you are, almost like this is a mid-size sedan. And the effort from the engineering to the design, I definitely feel it. So now if I'm gonna complain that the steering isn't as great as Honda, well, guess what? It's close to it. And years ago, Kia was nowhere near them. The K4, I don't get much power from it, but I do get really sure-footed handling, which is what I love about compact sedans. They're honest cars. Brake feel also is pretty good. Kia's done a pretty good job here dynamically, and I'm very curious what that turbocharged model is like. On the EX and above, you get two double 12.3-inch screens. This is something you never see in a Honda or a Toyota. It's absolutely pretty, actually. I really like how it looks. It's not too overwhelming either, except when it goes down to the climate controls. Down here, you'll notice there's a big blank switch. Well, on those lower trims, you can actually control all of the climate functions, including the fan direction and all the temperature from all down here, right? But when you do that, you actually have to go up here. And this is actually partially blocked by the steering wheel. And then if you press this plus button, then you get additional controls that would have been down here. This does not make any sense, and I really don't understand. So this is a lot of lost dash real estate, which they should have used and just kept the same. It doesn't help anything. But in the regular touchscreen, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, really good response. You can do voice memos if you want, see weather, and really the shortcut buttons are also super helpful. When you go in here, everything just works and it's super clear. So if I go into here, I can see all the descriptions. You don't even need the owner's manual for most of this stuff. So much customization in this K4, just like other Kia and Hyundai products that you'll see now for 2025. Really, really good. And on the GT line, navigation does come standard. I like that. But again, you don't really need to use this system, although it's good. I think you'd probably use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay for that because there's no head-up display. And in the central instrument panel, there's also no full screen maps. The instrument panel, also standard on every K4, it's digital. You can change the graphics. They don't do much, but the fact that you can do this on an economy compact car is great. And on the GT line Turbo, there are blind spot cameras, not on this model because this is the regular GT line. All your driver assistance, but even things like a Harman Kardon 8-speaker stereo, automatic holding for the brakes. These are features that you wouldn't find typically on compact cars, including dual zone climate, which is standard on EX and above trims. So for technology and just convenience, there's a lot. The 2025 Kia K4 starts at $22,000. There are 5 trims. As tested with Destination, our GT line, $28,000. The competitors, all Japanese and Korean. The Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, Nissan Sentra, Hyundai Elantra, and the Mazda 3. The Americans are nowhere in sight. I never cared for Kia's small sedans until now. The K4 changes that because it puts design, especially exterior design, at the forefront. It's looking even better than the new K5, and it's taking cues from so many of Kia's larger, more expensive models. All of the screens inside, they work pretty well for the most part, and it's delivering so much room and all the features that you would find on cars costing a whole lot more. Is it the absolute best in the segment? I would say no. I would give that to the Honda Civic as an all-arounder. It also doesn't deliver the same hybrid and an all-wheel drive performance as the Toyota Corolla. Now, we've reviewed all of these compact sedans, so there's a decent amount of choices on the market. But I would say right now, the K4 is definitely one of the most compelling cars we've driven. What do you think? Go to CarGurus.com to search for your next Kia or any other competitor and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.